And thank you to the panel for participating. I've made my views on the JCPOA very clear in this committee. To inject $150 billion in previously frozen assets into the Iranian economy, and the lifting of sanctions, which by most measures will allow that economy to grow at a clip of 10 to 12% per year, to what most of us would agree is the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. No anytime, anywhere inspections, an agreement that has not been signed by a single government official in Tehran, not a single member of the Iranian parliament, violating the spirit of the agreement at best on a regular basis through its ongoing support of regional proxies and their ongoing ballistic missile tests. So given all of those factors, my question is, does our faith in this agreement depend upon our belief in the credibility in the Iranian regime that they are going to keep their word?
I would say a couple of things. First, no, it doesn't rely on trust that they will keep their word. It relies on enforcement. I think you have to assume, because they've cheated in the past, that they're capable of cheating again. So I don't think it's a matter of trusting, and that's why the extensive inspections regime that they're committed to forever. We talked about sunsets. One thing that wouldn't sunset was the intrusive inspection regime to assure that they can never get a nuclear weapon. So I guess no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
If I may, just to slightly disagree with that, I think that any agreement of this sort requires trust, and we've heard statements that they won't allow inspections of military facilities. We're relying on the additional protocol down the road, and to say that, with all due respect to my friend Ali, that inspections are the absolute panacea, I think is wrong. Just because, with due respect, I don't think there's ever been an inspections regime that's truly prevented a power from going nuclear if that power wanted to go nuclear.
When we talk about imperfections, of the inspection regime, we have to compare it to the inspection regime that we would have in the absence of the JCPOA and the absence of the additional protocol. In fact, no country operating under the additional protocol has ever gotten nuclear weapons. And keep in mind that if we were to say, this inspection regime is imperfect and therefore we don't like the JCPOA, we would go from this inspection regime with additional monitors, 24/7 cameras on declared nuclear sites, and the ability to access even military bases if there is a basis for it. We would go from that regime to no regime whatever, kind of like the one we've had in North Korea for 20 years. And that's the case for the JCPOA.
Mr. Gordon, with all respect, how are we not relying on the credibility of the regime to enforce an agreement that does not allow for anytime, anywhere inspections? How is there not an element of us being forced to put our faith in that regime for this agreement to work?
Well, because we're monitoring. I mean, I think the anytime, anywhere is sometimes the wrong standard to think about. I mean, the idea, once again, would we like to have American intelligence personnel on Iranian military bases 24/7? I think, of course, we would. But that's never existed, other than the context of a defeated power and an occupation. That has never happened and will not happen, and I don't think any of us believe that could be the standard in Iran. What was important and remains important is that if we have a basis for suspecting that they are not living up to their obligations, not only not to acquire a nuclear weapon, but not even to seek or develop or do R&D on weaponization activities, if we have any basis for that, then we need access to those bases and have it. And as Oli said, the inspection regime provides for that. I actually think we have a better chance of getting that necessary, and if not, we have a crisis, and then all of the means are available, just as if we didn't have the agreement. I think we have a better chance of getting that access if we are living up to the regime, the JCPOA on our side, and can go to the IAEA and our allies and explain why we need access, rather than if we give the impression that our objective is actually to force the Iranians into a crisis and blow up the regime.
And is it your belief that Iran's ongoing support of regional proxies is not undermining the spirit of this agreement at best?
Like I said, the agreement was to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. I want to be absolutely clear that their support for proxies and terrorism in the region is something that should be an absolute priority of the United States to deal with. And there are ways of doing so consistent with the JCPOA. I would submit respectfully that not having the constraints on the nuclear program, unless we could also get every other American objective vis-a-vis Iran, could lead to us having neither. And that's why I think we need to deal with the proxies and support for terrorism, but it's a good thing to be constraining their nuclear program in the meantime.
My time has expired, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr.